Welcome back, everyone. I'm going to get into what we do with the journal from my standpoint for Middle Earth role playing. But before I do, I want to mention I kind of want to go back to creating the tokens. One thing I do, I have you can see up here. I call this monster tokens, and I also have one for player tokens. So basically, anytime I see a picture I like, I'll copy the picture and I'll paste it in here. Then I can work with it. I turn it into a token, which I showed you in one of the other videos. And I failed to mention, and actually it's kind of good because I can actually show you this too. You know how I made a token of Stellan Skarsgård character from King Arthur. Um, these guys were already made too, as you won't notice until I get into Roll20. This kind of bugging out, kind of weird, but that's not really like that. I don't know. There we go. I think this guy's made too. Hold on a second. Let me do this. I'm kind of getting kind of whacked out here. All right. So if you already have your tokens done, and then you realize you didn't actually save the picture as an avatar, which as I was making the video earlier, and I went to attach the avatar to the journal, and I forgot I never saved the avatar. You can always click on your picture if you already made it a token already. Click on the picture, click on format, click on. Actually, you don't have to click on. You just click reset picture. Okay, so I'm going to reset that picture, and then just you right click and you save it. I actually saved everything in specific folders. So I would save that in my Guardians of Middle Earth, kind of down into some subfolders, into this campaign that we're doing. That has a subfolder, and then within that campaign, I have picks, avatars, and tokens. So then within that folder, I have picks for bad guys. I have picks for good guys, and then within there, different, just subfolder everything. But you just save it wherever you want to save it. That's what I do with mine. But like I said, you click on format and reset picture. I believe I saved the one already. In fact, I think I saved both of them actually. Save as picture in Tower Rescue. Originally, this thing was only supposed to be like a one-shot kind of thing, maybe 3 sessions max, and we've been going for over a year now. So it was originally just going to be a play off of very simple little tutorial on how to do Middle Earth role playing, but this turned into something bigger. Anyway, Monster Picks, Serpent Brotherhood, and I already saved it. So you just save it in your folder, and then you can access it. And you don't like if you need to go back and reset a picture, and you don't want to have to recreate the token later. Just click off of here and don't save your changes because all I did was reset the pictures. So I don't want to save it, but that's kind of cool to know that you can do that. Anyway, these are my bad guys, and I kind of touched a little bit on in the last video on the journal. Now we're going to click on, and I also touched on how I like to have, one master and then some copies down here, and then we'll use these copies of the copies, and we're going to set a journal up for one of these bad guys. So first thing you're going to want to do is edit, and you're going to click on, and this is going to be universal no matter what your game system is. You can do the same thing. I'll do the lead marauder first. I won't do the other one in this video, but that's what I'll do here. This basically is me, but if you want to let if you want to kind of put this journal, have anyone have specific access to it, you can either hit all players, which I did at one time, but then it really clutters up the screen for people when they're in there looking for something specific, and then they got everybody they don't need to see. So typically, I will only now I try to only have whoever's character is have that person have it in that person's journal. But if, for example, one of my players can't make it on a given night, I will actually go down and, like Lenuciel, that's Nikki. She oftentimes will play other characters while in their absence. So she does her absolute best to keep people alive, even when I'm trying to, even when they want to die. Like in the case where someone wants to have their character die and get a new character. It's happened. We've been through that, I think, twice. Nikki's trying to keep somebody alive that I'm seriously trying to kill off because they want to create a new character. But it's kind of funny. But so this is how you put it, how you give them access to that character's journal, which is very helpful, especially if it's, for example, a spellcaster. If their spells are listed in the journal, which they can easily be added, I'll show you that. But then they can see the spells. Maybe they could see how much money they have. Maybe they could see if they need to spend money on something, which normally one player is not going to spend another player's money in their absence. Maybe somebody wants to know what weapons the other person has, what are their best attacks. Anyway, this is where they see it, and I can actually have someone control another person's token without actually being able to have access to the journal. But it makes it nice if they have access to the journal as well. Normally, I just click on this, and the player can control the other person's character. I used to have all players in here for every character, but like I said, it really clutters up the screen for people. Tags I don't do anything with. I don't know. We're gonna rename this dude. Not that, of course. Lead Marauder. We'll do him first. Lead Marauder, and then we're gonna choose our file, which is going to be in Pix Avatars and Tokens. Monster Pix, Serpent Brotherhood. And this is going to be this guy. So this is going to be his token. That'll upload. Or not his token, his avatar, I'm sorry. The token, you don't want to do anything with the token yet until you're absolutely finished. You want to finish your journal, then you want to take your token. It's very important you do everything in the right order. Do your journal. You can have your token already, it doesn't matter. But you can also do your journal first. So you're going to create your journal, and then you're going to click on this token later, and you're going to basically, I'll show you later, but you're going to basically say, which journal is this token going to be attached to? Once you do that, and like I said, I'll get into it, then you come in here. When you're done doing everything you need to do with your token, then you come in here and you'll click on this, and then you'll use select a token. You can do it now. I'll do it just for the heck of it. It doesn't really matter because he's not going to be attached until we do everything in the right order anyway. All you do later is you just click remove, which I'll just do it now anyway. And then so anytime I need to reattach a token, that's what I do. I just remove and then hit use selected token again, and then you reattach. When you goof around with this Roll20 system long enough, you'll understand there are just reasons sometimes you need to attach and reattach tokens. So anyway, I'm not going to bother putting any kind of, actually I lie, I would probably, so that the players know what they're going to get when they loot the body. This guy will probably have some kind of money on him. I'll just, for whatever, I'll just say 20 gold pieces. Sounds good. That way when they loot the body, I have something I can tell them that they find. This guy is going to be a For now, anyway. I may beef them up. I don't know. But he's going to be a level 3. He's a warrior. And I'll put mounted warrior. All right, so he's a mounted warrior, and actually, I'm not going to do this whole entire thing for the video, but you can add whatever you want to add in there. And let me show you something really cool, because you can do this with well, you can do this with any spreadsheet that you have. You can actually pop up. I don't actually have spreadsheets for these guys. Like, I just have I have basic stats that I use, that I put into a what I call a combat tracker for all kinds of bad guys, and every single one of my characters, my player characters, spreadsheets are attached. Every cell of every spread, well, I shouldn't say every cell, every important cell of every spreadsheet is kind of all compiled into my combat tracker. So at my fingertips, I have everybody's information at a glance. It's become very, very helpful. My combat tracker is like my godsend. I spent a lot of work on that too, but actually not nearly as much time as I spent on the spreadsheets, believe me. But let me see. Where was I going with that? Oh, I wanted to show you something that you can do. I will pick a Rowan-Eek, who is my 99.99%er. She fell asleep on a session. If I didn't mention it in one of the previous videos, because I have recorded some of these over, but she fell asleep in one of the previous sessions, and she has been beating herself up for that. But just say, for example, just say she does actually have a healing spell. But say she had multiple healing spells. This actually, I probably should have used one of the animists. I probably should have used Ned for this. You can go to your spreadsheet, and you can copy any. Actually, I won't even do the spell list. Let me do this: special notes and reminders, and maybe even background options. Just little things that maybe you want to remember. Control copy. You can just copy a group of cells, and you can paste them in here. It's kind of helpful. So, special notes and reminders. She has night vision. She has a +10 bonus versus cold attacks. Superb hearing. She has a spell adder. She trances 1 to 3 hours per day. That's basically her way of resting. 6 stat points per level isn't necessarily important to Roll20. It's just important. It's something I do during character creation and leveling up. Background options. So, like, if there's some kind of information that your character wants to have access to, and be able to remember anything at all. I mean, anything you want, you can easily copy and paste things right from the spreadsheet, or just type different things in. But just so you know, it's nice. You can literally copy and paste and put things here. That's how I did this here. I just copied it right off my spreadsheet. I just made it all blank, and I think I basically used this to create the group herb kitties, and that was a tiny little bit of work. Wasn't that hard? Or no. I copied that out of my herb spreadsheets too. So, but you can add. I ain't 100% sure how you do. I think maybe tab. I'm not totally sure. I don't want to really screw this up, but I know for sure one of the players figured out how to add more boxes, because they added an extra thing for an herb that they found that wasn't already listed. But anyway, you can put in there anything you want. As a GM, I used to hide down here when, whatever money they had, if there was any kind of like clues or anything, I would put that down in the GM notes. But the I don't really need a whole bunch of information in there for bad guys, so I don't bother putting much of anything in there. That's about it. because everything I need to know about the bad guys is on my combat tracker, and I keep that on the monitor over here while we're playing. As far as like, does the bad guy have a helm, arm greaves, leg greaves, what kind of armor, what kind of defensive bonus, what kind of movement maneuver, stuff like that. A lot of it's not important for in here. But anyway, you save your changes. Now you can see like what we put in there kind of shows up over here. He kind of looks all cool. Character sheet. I do nothing at all with the character sheet for bad guys. Actually, I don't do anything at all with the character sheet. But I didn't mention it in the last video. I don't know if I did or not, but I tried to create a character. I tried to code one a couple years ago, and I'm just not a coder. So this is my master of Middle Earth role playing journal that we use. Okay, this is going to have everything that I have determined is important to Roll20 from the spreadsheet. So we basically will go in here and I will put in whatever the strength bonus is for this bad guy or a character if I'm creating a character. Agility bonus, constitution bonus. For PowerPoints, I would only put the PowerPoints in the first box unless it's a spellcaster. And the reason for that is, let me pop out, for example, I'm going to bring out two of the characters here. Let's bring out Ro, and here, let's see who we got down here. We'll bring out Ro and Eek. Let's just we'll bring out Rory. So Ro and Eek is a spellcaster, okay? In your tokens, you can, I'll get into this later, but you're gonna set certain things that will show in these bars here, and what I use the red bar for is hit points, and I use the blue bar for power points, and I use a black bar, which you're not going to see, but that's for what I call the negative to activity, and the bar never shows anyway. And I'll kind of explain later how you get the bars to show or not show. But I only want the blue bar to show for spellcasters. There's no need at all to have blue bars for every character because most of them don't cast spells anyway. So the way you keep certain bars from showing is, like, for example, PowerPoints. Just say this bad guy has one PowerPoint. All right, you're just going to put one in the first box, put nothing in the second box. Negative to activity, 0 in the first box, nothing in the second box. And the reason I do that, it won't necessarily be for you. Have to pick and choose what you're going to want these bars to represent. And if you want the hit point bar to show for anything, you're going to want to have hit points in both the first box and the second box for whatever you attach each of the bar. You have 3 bars: a blue bar. Actually, you might be able to change the colors of the bars. I use blue, black, and red. And like I said, I use red for hit points. I use black for negative to activity. I use blue for power points. That is what works best for us. I'll get into more of that later when I'm looking at the token, inside the token. But anyway, you're going to go down through here. You're going to fill out all of the information from your spreadsheet, or like in this case, it's bad guys. So I have stats set up in the combat tracker for them. And I do fill out most everything for the bad guys. These mods are automatic. Different macros that I have are going to call on different, well, the macros are going to call on the information from all of these attributes that you put in here. So everything that you need to answer a macro question needs to be in here. I just have this set up like other artistic skills. These are just other athletic skills. So just X's in there so I know I don't need numbers in there. This just separates them, different categories: athletic skills, crafting skills. You have influence skills down here, other lore skills, and then I added recently the martial arts skills, which is why I've been slowly changing everyone's journals over as they've been leveling up. So over here is where I would add, and I need to look at the combat tracker quickly, just for the heck of it. This guy's going to have a broadsword. So I would, first of all, I will click show as a token action. What that means, you can see how I'm clicked on Rowan. All these buttons pop up. That's everything that she needs to have shown. Like a lot of these are common macros available to everyone, which they would be over here. And I make those available to anyone that needs to have access to the common macros. But for example, the base spells macro might only be available to the spellcasters. Well, it is. And the something that we recently did called for a common club macro, a common javelin macro, and a common spear macro. In the past, Rowan didn't have those macros because she doesn't normally use those weapons, but they were thrown in jail or in jail cells, and they had to break their way out, and they did not have access to their equipment, but they managed to get their mitts on some spears, clubs, and javelins, and so I had to make common macros so everyone could have access to what they needed. Anyway, she'll have a short bow, a short sword, and maybe say Cram. Cram might not have short bow. And this is not Cram. This is Rory. Rory will have short bow, but Rory will not have a short sword because I don't even see Rory's short bow. How does Rory not have a short bow? That's very strange. That's strange indeed. Sorry, I'm like, I have to check on that later. But anyway, the bad guy, I would add a broadsword. Sword. So then the broadsword button will pop up for this guy when I add a broadsword macro. I would advise anyone that's doing anything with macros, and this video is not on macros, but I would definitely advise if you are creating macros, I advise that you save every macro that you make so that you don't lose them. And I need a broadsword macro. There we go. So I just copy it and paste it in here. Makes it a lot easier. Copy paste, copy paste. So he's got a broadsword macro. Let me see what else he has. Lead marauder, broadsword, and short bow. So he needs a short bow macro as well. So add another one. It's going to show as a token action. Click on this over here. Short bow. Now I need a short bow macro. Actually, I just slide this over here. Short bow. Nice thing about this guy is he's only got 2 weapons. I don't have to put any thrown. Some of the bad guys, I gotta, depending on what their weapons are, I gotta add different, like extra macros that they probably won't even bother using. Short bow macro. I'll pop that in there. So, just kind of give you an idea. These macros call for certain things, like it's going to want to add, it's going to roll your dice, and it's going to want to add whichever token is selected, which is going to be your own token. Like for example, if Rowan was the token selected, her macro is going to look at the selected token, and it's going to look for the missile offensive bonus. It's going to look for that person select negative to activity. It's going to look for, Well, the magic bonus is going to ask a question. So some of these things is going to ask a question. Like it's going to ask her when she clicks on a button, distance to the target. She's going to have to answer distance to target. She's going to have to answer whether she's reloaded. Some things are automatic. Plus anything that has a question, it's going to ask the player a question to answer. Anything that has at selected, it's going to automatically look in this journal over here for whatever bonuses you're looking for. A lot of it's questions. Some of it's just automatically going to look for whatever it's calling for over here. So I'm going to fill this in later. I'm not really going to bother doing everything um, on the video. Probably a way long video already, I bet. Probably at least a half hour. Well, 25 minutes. But I could really go into great detail on what this is all about. I have a secondary skill macro. It's a common macro. It's a huge macro. Um, just to kind of give you an idea what that thing looks like. It's a very large macro. Not huge. It's one of the bigger ones. Um, maybe not as big as the two weapon combo macros, but when you click on that, it's going to ask you what exactly you want to do, and then depending on what you pick, it's going to say, like if you pick acrobatics, it's going to look for what you have in here. If you pick contortions, it's going to look for this. So that's why you want to put all this stuff in. So when you're clicking on a macro button, um, you don't even have to have these buttons in up here, which I probably should tell my players that too. All they would really ever have to do is have their journal loaded up, and they could just click on these roller buttons here. You really don't have to have your screen clustered up with the buttons. I've kind of gotten used to using the buttons. I mean, it's either the buttons or you're going to have this. You're going to have this in your way the whole game. I just think the buttons is easier. But I will fill the rest of this out. And what I want to kind of go into, though, is let me just really quick. I want to pop in. I'll just do a generic hit points. And I don't know off the top of my head. Let's just say 50. Okay. Say 50. So you want to put 50 and 50 in both of those boxes. And I'll show you what I mean by attaching the token. So you just say, for example, we totally finished him up. Now you would I would, well, actually, I don't want to, sorry. All right, so you have lead marauder here, okay? It's going to be this guy here. So you're going to double click on the token. Now, right here, you're going to see represents character, right? So we want him to represent the lead marauder. So I type in lead, it takes me to lead marauder. Tap on that. All right, so now it's going to represent that journal. Now, you can do that with a, if you want to have one journal for a multitude of bad guys, say you're playing Dungeons and Dragons and there's nothing like a negative to activity. Honestly, I haven't played Dungeons and Dragons in 35 years, so I don't know if there is or isn't. Maybe it's really stupid of me to even say, but in a lot of cases, you can use a generic, one generic journal for a multitude of bad guys. If you're going to do that, there's going to be a different way of doing this. So the way you make an individual journal is you come in here, and well, actually, you do this. I'm pretty sure you do this either way, whether it's going to be a generic one journal for a multitude of bad guys or one journal for one bad guy. You're going to do this regardless. So I want my red bar to represent body development. Same thing as hit points. So I go body development and the numbers pop in. I want my blue bar to represent power points. So I hit that and power points. If it's a spellcaster, I would have the other one here but I don't need that there. Oh, you can actually see. Watch this. Watch this. Okay, see how the red bar popped up as soon as I did that. Watch what happens here. I think. All right, maybe not. Hold on. I'm gonna have to. I'm gonna have to redo it. Why? Very strange. I'm not totally sure. Negative to activities definitely. Oh, no, no, no. Hold on. Sorry. Negative to activity. Put that there. Oh, okay. So once I did something different. You see how the blue bar popped up this time? Because I added the one over here. If I take the one out of there, it will eventually disappear. You come over, if you want to show a nameplate, click show the nameplate. Let me see, just do this real quick. See, save the changes. The blue bar disappeared. It still shows up here that you have one PowerPoint, but it's not cluttering up the screen. Believe me, if you have nameplates and you have bars all over the place and you've got a whole bunch of bad guys and good guys and they're all, it gets to be a mess. I would like to have the names, but it really clutters up the screen. So let's double click on this guy again. Let's get rid of this. All right. Over here, you can put what you want your players to have permission. Do you want them to see uh, the nameplate? If you put the nameplate, do you want them to see bar one? Bar one for me is the hit points. I normally want the players to see each other's bar one, so they can see if one of their companions is hurt. Then they know somebody needs help. I used to do it with the bad guys. I kind of, I go up and down about that. I kind of think, in a way, it's good for them to see what I call the boo boo meter going down on a bad guy, so you kind of have an idea. This guy, we're getting this guy. But I don't know. In a way, it kind of adds to the suspense if they don't know. Although I will normally say, okay, this guy's looking pretty rough. We also have something in Middle Earth role playing where if you're under half of your hit points, you are at a negative 20 to your attacks. So they can normally tell when I put a little marker on it's a heart, kind of half white, half black. They know when something's under half hit points. But this is how you say what you want your players to see. Do you want them to see bar 1, bar 2, bar 3, R1, R2? And actually, I probably need to change that for all of my player characters. I don't know. Actually, I think I did change that so that they could all see each other's aura. One of the things we have in our game, I let them do fate points, which allows them, if something bad happens, they can use a fate point and maybe change the outcome. And I usually, this is where I would put whatever color. Like, for example, if they use a fate point, I usually use this, and then I'll put one there and save the changes, and then it'll put an aura, and then you see, because of that aura, okay, so and so used a fate point. Anyway, we're not going to. You can change these colors. You can make them squares if you wanted to. Like, let's make it a square. No, just kind of, you can make it smaller. You can make it bigger. Like if I wanted to make it, smaller. Didn't make it much smaller, but he's kind of big. They're big because they're on horses. But I made that 0.5 feet. You can make it bigger, or I still have it set for square, but for now we don't want any aura. I'm kind of going over dumb stuff here, but I want to try to cover as much as possible. I don't want to forget something, but over here, like I said, you come over here, you can set what they see, what they can edit. I normally like to allow them to be able to edit anything of their own, and actually, the player permission to edit is going to be whoever's in control of these. And this is a bad guy, so I'm the only one in control. That is determined by on the journal where it says whoever you have in here, that's who can edit over there. Let's get rid of that once. Yeah, so as far as editing, it's only going to be the person that's in charge of whatever particular token or journal. This is where you want to put how far they could see in a dynamically lit environment where, you know, if it's dark, I can make it dark and they only see so far. You will want to click on has sight. Now, this is a bad guy, so it doesn't matter. I control them, but you don't want to click on all players see the light. If you have like a torch or a campfire, you would click all players see that light. You don't want to put has sight because then if they can see the light, I think hopefully I got this right. If they can see the light, all right, like all players see the light and it has sight, then I think they can actually see what it could see as well. So you don't want to have both of those set for a torch or a campfire or any bad guy. Believe me, you just want them to be able to. Well, for the bad guys, I don't want the players to see whatever they see anyway. So, and up here, I normally do something called base near total darkness vision, which is and near total darkness. 5 foot, 1 foot for any human being. So basically, it's saying if it's almost complete total darkness, not complete, but close, you can see a tiny little bit. Maybe you can see a foot in front of you, and maybe 5 feet in front of you, but it's very, very dim after the first foot. It's something I do based on Middle Earth kind of visions. Elves can see much further under moonlight. Dwarves can see. Actually, dwarves can see. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I hate to say this, but I think they can see 10 feet in utter darkness. But anyway, it's not important. That's what you kind of do with this. Get it set up. I do want to mention this. I probably should do a separate video for just this part. In fact, I may. Something shorter that people don't have to listen to me rambling on for 37 minutes about. Actually, I will definitely do a separate on the token because this one's really on the journal. But I want to add it in here too. I want to mention it in here too. If you're making journals for generic mooks and mobs, what you need to do to make to what separates the individualized token and journal from the generic for many is this part right here. To make it a generic, you actually need to go in here and put none. Once you do that, you click that to none and click this to none. You don't want to have any of these things actually attached, completely attached to one specific journal. And like it's just now all this is, it's just numbers, because this has no way of knowing that this is hit points. You know, but the token doesn't really. How do I explain this? It's generic now, so it's not going to go into this journal and change the hit points once one of your guys gets attacked. If it's attached to that journal, just say for example, I didn't change this, and I had one journal for one bad guy, and I brought a couple of them out. Okay, I'll give you an example. Let me show you this real quick. Say I bring in, say Rowanike's a bad guy, and I'll bring in a couple Rowanikes. Okay. All right, so I got 4 Rowanikes. Okay. Every one of these Rowanikes is individually, well, they're attached to one journal. If she gets her tendons torn, which she recently did, she had a tendons torn and she was at a negative 25 to activity. So I click on this particular one, negative 25 to activity. All three of them, or all four of them, they're all going to say the same thing. If she takes, all right, she's at 84. Say she takes 20 hits. Oh, minus 20. All right. She takes minus 20 hits. They all take minus 20 hits. All right. So let's give her the 20 back. Let's get rid of this. And let's delete the extra Rowan-Eeks. Oh, didn't I get rid of that aura? Interesting. Maybe I didn't change it. Wait, what is going on here? Why is it still showing an aura? Oh, probably because I unattached it. That's probably why. All right, so now I'll kind of show you. Oh, I don't have this attached to the journal yet, though. All right, hold on a second. Let me click this. Lead Marauder. And edit. You need to be clicked on the token you want to attach. So we just pretend we're completely done with the journal. Now we're going to attach the token, okay? I want to kind of show you something here. All right, so they're all going to come out looking the same, all right? Now this is how you have generic mooks. We'll take care of this pink aura here in a bit. If this guy takes 10 hits, oops, minus 10, he's at 40. It doesn't affect this one, or this one, or this one, because they're attached to the same journal, but they're not directly individually attached as one and one because of what we did with changing these to none. If this isn't changed to none, then it's one, like I showed you with Rowan-Eek. Whatever happens to one token is going to happen to every token that is attached to that journal. These are this is how you do generics, though. Let me get rid of these once and momentarily just put this back to plus 50 or plus, well, plus 10, so he's up to 50. Now I want to go back in and I just want to have just him attached to that journal. So now I just have to redo this. I just go back to body development and attach it. You see I think, I don't know if I felt like something changed out there, but maybe not. PowerPoints and negative to activity. We want, oh, that's why. You have to have this blank to get rid of that aura. It has to be blank, not a zero, not anything in there at all. All right, so we're going to leave this all the same. We save this, all right? And this is very important. We made a change to this. It's very important. You must go back into that journal, all right? Actually, let me show you. If you don't, this is what's going to happen. You bring it out. You see? It's still the same. I mean, it's like kind of like the old one when he's had the aura. What you need to do now, you made changes. You need to go back into that journal. You click edit, remove the token, and then reattach it. This becomes necessary from time to time, and sometimes I don't even know why something gets screwed up, but sometimes it does. Whenever I have to do something, I'm sorry. Look at that. That's the first time I think I yawned in one of my videos all night. Um, Whenever I reattach a token, one thing I like to do is I like to drag a new one out and make sure it's right, which it is. They're the same. And then I just usually will delete the old one. Now, because we've done that, watch what happens again. Kind of like what we did with Ronique before. Say this guy gets 45 hits all at once, which isn't going to happen. But you see, all three of these guys dropped. All three of them. If I add it back, watch the boo-boo meters. I call them boo-boo meters. When you have a young daughter, you might say boo-boo meters too. So plus 45, they all go back up. Why? Because it's one journal for all three of these tokens. So they're not really separate tokens. They're actually the same. This is why I needed to create a separate journal for every bad guy. Kind of hard to explain. When they were each all, generic bad guys, if I do put a negative to activity on any one of those guys, it's not going to show up on the other tokens, but because every single one of those tokens is attached to that journal, when I roll any attack for any of those guys, it's going to, whether, even though it's not showing in the rest of their marker bars, it's going to look at that journal because every single one of them is attached to the same journal. It's going to look at that journal and it will subtract that negative activity. That's why it has become necessary for me to create an individual journal for every single bad guy, because of the negative to activity, which is something that's kind of important to the Middle Earth role-playing system. It just is. So that was a very long video, almost an hour, just on the journal and kind of token thing. I do want to make a very short video next on the whole attaching tokens. So it's going to be a little bit like this video, but not as in-depth. Not as in-depth. So thank you for watching this video. I know it kind of like felt like I was rambling a little bit. It's just I really want to I want to be thorough with anybody that is trying to learn this. I will get into macros later. I will fill this stuff out on my own. Let's see, probably by the time I'm done here it'll be close to 4 o'clock, because I want to do the other video too. Get some sleep. Maybe we can start 2 hours later. I don't know, but I'm fading fast. Thanks for joining me for this video. I hope it's helpful. I think it will be. Just fill out all your stuff, and like I said, this is all information that your macros are going to look for. And we'll get into macros later too. Thank you. I hope it helps, and I'll see you in the next video. The next video will be much shorter and kind of cover the whole, generic macros versus specific, not macros, generic tokens versus, I don't really want to say specific, but like, a specific token for one specific journal, as opposed to one journal that is for many tokens. So anyway, I ramble, especially when I get tired. Thanks again, and look for me in the next video, which I'll probably be doing that in a couple minutes. Thank you.